if I had one question to ask you, I'd have to go back. The '93 season, that's my favorite team of all time, and that Florida State game is my favorite game of all time in any sport. So, when you sit down and you think about that game, what are the biggest memories you have of it, and did you realize how big it was at the time and how long you'd end up talking about that game, and just kind of how you relate with that game in this day and age?
Well, at the time, preparing for the game and everything, now I'm realizing, talking with Oscar, you really didn't realize how big and how many people it touched. Of course, it was Florida State number 1. We were number 2. But we prepared so hard, and Coach Holtz put us through so much during the week that you didn't really get a chance to soak it all in. He stayed on us so much. Yep. And it was amazing that I think he knew what he was doing. He would keep us. He would always tell us, stay out of the newspapers. Don't read your own newspaper clippings. I know you remember that, Oscar, very well.
Don't read your own newspaper clippings.
Yeah, and so for me, I always stayed calm. I stayed out of the limelight. Even to this day, I do pretty much. And just concentrated on what I needed to focus on that game. There were so many things that I learned afterwards that was said during the game. And I'm going to tell you a little story. When I realized, how big it was, I think that was the first game that Reebok had come out with the pumps or something, new tennis shoes. I'm like, man, they've made these shoes for our receivers and everything. And that's when I started and also that week, I think a lot of everyone just came in early. We had put a blanket around the fence where no one could see, and our practices were closed. Yep. So I did see it a little bit, but I still kept it true to myself and said I'm going to continue on the path that I've been going on and staying out of that. And I think that those were the times that I realized that it was big, other than once you got in the game and you could see just the atmosphere and the magnitude. And I think that was the game that it was the first college day, right, Oscar?
Yeah, College game day. College game day was
the first one. So yeah, just to see Bob Costas and those guys out there, it was big. It was big. And just the whole game was a great memory. We had the Heisman Trophy in the game. I think Corey Sawyer had won the best defensive back in college football, and Aaron Taylor was up there with being the top lineman. So I think everybody almost on the field went to the NFL.
Yeah.
So it was a huge game, and we became number 1 after that. So that was my biggest memory, winning that game and becoming number 1 in the nation. It was a lot of fun to actually be the quarterback, the starting quarterback of a team that actually won. You're number 1 in the nation. It's great. It's great.
Well, being from Florida, now that you live back home again, do you hear about that game a lot? Do people approach you and remember you? Are they mad at you? Anything come up around that?
Yes, being in Florida, I had a lot of people who didn't like me. Of course, they were mad when I left Florida, period. Exactly. Everyone wanted me to stay in Florida. They were like, all the talent is leaving Florida. And that year, we had a lot of top players to go to Notre Dame and leave the state of Florida. So I get that all the time. They still, my friends. Actually, my best friend at the time was a Florida State fan. So he was actually at the game hoping I'd throw for 1,000 yards but lose the game. So he was like, look, I hope you have the best game of your life, but you don't win. So that's what type of fans Florida State had, and, they were very, very good fans. So, and I witnessed that with my best friend at the time. We beat Florida State. I say, and I'm sure Oscar thinks, that we should have won the national title
because we handled it at Florida State.
Right.
Fast forward to the BC game.
Oh, Oh.
Fast forward to the BC game. All right. We come up. We call a timeout in the first quarter. We come over to the sideline. I know you remember this.
Yeah.
They got 8 in the box. We're trying to run 24 power. They got a linebacker on me, head up, and they got Mike Mamula, who ended up being a first-round draft pick to the Philadelphia Eagles on the outside.
Right.
Okay, if I block Mike Mamula, linebacker blitzes. If I block the linebacker, Mike Mamula comes free. We had 7 to block 8. It just wasn't happening. Coach Holtz called the timeout. I said, Coach, you got to take me out. Either flex me out or put Derek Mays in the slot. They got too many in the box. I can't block 2 guys. Coach Holtz looked at me and said, we're going to run 24 power. Remember that?
Coach Holtz.
Remember that? We're going to run 24 power until they stop. I'm like, Coach, I can't. Okay. All right. So we try to run a 24 power. We try to run a 44 counter, and Boston College is stuffing us because they got 8 in the box, and we just don't have enough guys to block them, in spite of how good we might have been. We leave the field with, we got about 4 minutes left. We got the ball. I come out of the game, we put Derek Mays in the slot, and you finally get a chance to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Man, Kevin, what was that moment like with you engineering what should have been the national championship drive, probably the last national championship drive we'll see it for some time at Notre Dame Stadium? What was it like for you on that drive? Try to describe what it was like. I remember the formation was called Trey because, it was, they didn't have run and shoot back then. So they took me out. They put Derek in the slot. So they had 3 receivers and 2 backs. Right. Kind of walk us through that series, man, where we went down and scored.
Well, actually, people may not know this, but we actually went back to the basics somewhat. But the biggest thing about that was not only did Coach Holtz let me throw, I called and engineered the plays, which he had never done that before.
Yep.
So I think even he might have felt, man, he might have been out of his element because we had to do so much and score so many points in a short period of time.
Right.
And once we started doing that, and it was just, I felt at home. See, when I came to Notre Dame, it was, when I was being recruited, I think they thought that I was going to run the option or beat a quarterback like Tony Rice. But that wasn't me. That's why Coach Holtz and I never, we didn't get along. I was like, look, I can run, but I'm a thrower. I don't want to run.
Right.
So, so we got into that, but that's what I felt I was at Notre Dame to do. The Joe Montanas and to throw the ball. So I felt at home. So all he did was release me to do what I feel I was there to do anyway.
Right.
I was most comfortable in that moment. I wasn't comfortable the times when people saw me running for touchdowns and running the option. Man, I would be in the huddle like, oh, no, another option play. Please, linebacker, don't come out here and just decide to destroy me. It's not my fault. It's Coach Holtz's fault. I don't want to do this, So that drive, I felt at home, and that's why I think what we scored 21 points or 22 points in
something crazy
7 minutes.
I don't know. Steve, do you know exactly what it was? Was it like 14 points in 6 minutes or something crazy like that? What was it?
I have the box scores all in front of me. It doesn't show the times, though.
Right.
I don't have the times in front of me. I have the box score, and you're right about that was the most passing attempts you had on the season, 29. The most passing yards you had on the season with 261. Most completions, 18. Your stats, I'm looking at them right now. Unbelievable game for you.
Yeah. And, I just felt at home. And to go back games before that, you may remember this. We were playing Pittsburgh, and we used to always have – see, people don't realize we had in our playbook the exact offense that Florida State had.
Absolutely.
We could have run the fast break offense. It was in our playbook.
Yep,
Coach Holtz just didn't want to do it.
Right.
So during Pittsburgh, he finally put me in the shotgun. I told you I almost passed out. I couldn't play to come in. But listen, when it came in, I looked to the sideline like, man, I think they made a mistake. Now, I don't want to call it because, Coach Host is famous for kicking you out, even when you completed a pass. That was just him. So I hesitated like, this can't be the right play. So I say, are you sure this is the right play? Yeah, call it. I called it. I threw a 15-yard slant route to, I think it was Adrian Jarrell, and he never called it again. So, listen, look at every tape, every game. We never did it again. It was like he was afraid that he was like, uh-oh, I don't want to show all of that because I don't want to beat people that bad. And it was like, Coach, just if you ever let us go one game, I might not even play the third quarter. We'll be out of there in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And that's why, man, against Boston College, when we started passing the ball, we were at home. I felt this is what I was here to do, and that's why things moved so smoothly.
Well, I tell you what, it was the most unbelievable experience. And it's funny. I mean, I came to Coach Holston that time out in the first quarter, and I was like, "You need Coach, take me out of the game." I mean, and that was who we were. It wasn't about, we need to run some different plays. It was about understanding this is what we're up against, and this is what we're going to need to beat these fools. You know what I mean?
Right.
Let K-Mac throw the ball. Yeah. We got Lake Dawson. We got Derek Mays. We got Clint Johnson. We got Adrian Jarrell. We got cats who can catch the rock. We got let it go.
Not to interrupt you, but I'm going to let everyone get a feel of the very last play, the touchdown. Mm-hmm. We go to the sideline, and Coach Holtz, he's looking like, man, this is the last play. I don't know what. And I told him, I said, look, just get everyone in the end zone. Let everyone run curl routes and keep moving. I'm going to buy time, and we're going to score.
Right.
We're going to score. I'll just have to buy time.
Right.
And I couldn't believe he let me do it. He called it.
He calls split right 324 wide delay.
Yeah.
He called tight end delay for me, and it's true to form. When I passed that, the linebacker looked at me, and I went, oh shit, and I took off. I ran a drag. The linebacker followed me, and Lake Dawson came up back behind the back of the end zone. And you hit him for the touchdown.
Exactly. Just get in the end zone and move. I need everybody in the end zone. I'll buy time.
Yes, sir.
That's what happened.
Yes, sir. I remember thinking, why is he calling wide delay? I remember thinking that, and you was like, don't worry about it. Just buy time. It's gonna be all right.
Exactly.